Portanto, como se diz, falando de stars, it's a great pleasure to receive you in our training week. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you everybody for being present in this session. I'm not a near native speaker of English, neither a near native speaker. So in order to be sure that my English will be you will understand my English, I prepared a first intervention in oral intervention, just to give you some informations, and then we'll have a slideshow, a PowerPoint, where I included a video on our exhibition. Of course, our exhibition was very small, so to speak during 1 hour and a half about this exhibition, for me, I understood that I should give information why we chose some contents, which were the objectives, and so. But before, I think that it is important that I share with you some preliminary remarks. So, first of all, of course, it's a great pleasure for me to participate in this training week, and I would like to thank Professor Elena for the invitation to speak about our exhibition. This exhibition was organized as a way to commemorate 10 years of activity of the Cátedra of Português, Língua Segunda Estrangeira, Second Language and Foreign Language. The Cátedra was created by a protocol between our university, University Eduardo Mondlane, and Camões, and it was the first Cátedra of Portuguese in Africa. So it was really a great responsibility for us to show what could be a Cátedra of Portuguese in Africa. And during 10 years of activity, we worked mainly on the area of the Portuguese second language. So we didn't work on Portuguese foreign language for some reasons, not interesting for here. And if you want to know a little bit more about our activities, you can visit our website. It's easy to find the website. You just write in Google Cátedra Português and the link appears. And you are welcome, of course, to visit our website where we share different kinds of information and also a kind of synthesis of what we have done during these 10 years of activity. Of course, also, you are welcome to email me some, if you want further information after my session. So after 10 years of activity, we thought that it would be important to organize some event to commemorate our work, our research. And this idea of an exhibition where language is the main topic emerged in this context of the commemoration of 10 years of activity. But as a matter of fact, and this is there is a kind of funny story behind this decision. In 2007, maybe 2008, I can't remember anymore, I was in São Paulo for some conference, and a colleague of the University of São Paulo invited me to visit the Museum of Portuguese Language. And I must say, maybe I should be ashamed to say this, but it's the truth. My first reaction to myself, of course, it was, a museum of Portuguese language. This will be probably a very boring visit. But of course, I accepted. And so we went there. And even before we entered the museum, I was really very surprised that I saw outside the building, there were several buses and lots of people of all ages, people of all social classes entering the museum. And there, of course, I said, wow, something is wrong in my judgment about this museum. And of course, once inside the museum, I understood the reason why what was supposed to be a boring museum, why all these people were visiting, although so many people were visiting the museum. And really, I must say, well, maybe you know that there was a fire that destroyed completely the museum, but they are now rebuilding it. And it has been really a fantastic experience. There was music, videos, different challenges to the visitors. There was poetry projected in the walls. Well, it was really something very, very, very interesting. So after this visit to the museum, I thought, oh, how interesting it would be to replicate it, of course, with very few resources, no? But anyway, to replicate an event where language would be the people would contact language, not in a boring experience, like I thought before, but in a kind of physical experience, to contact language physically with your body, and a pleasant experience. And finally, the occasion to replicate the museum appeared, and we decided that Mozambican Portuguese would be the backbone of this exhibition. So in Mozambican Portuguese, in a kaleidoscope, was the symbolic way we found to account for the fact that in this exhibition, different informations about Mozambican Portuguese would be given. So it is likely we broke the languages into the Portuguese and also Bantu language, as you will see, in different and beautiful pieces, but still connected among them, like the small pieces of a kaleidoscope. So this is, I thought that this could be interesting. And just one more information. So the exhibition was in Maputo since December 19 until February 20, well, just before the COVID arrives. And of course, we don't want this exhibition. It was quite expensive, and I think it is interesting for people. So now we have the plan to, this exhibition goes to a city in the north of Mozambique, Nampula, and also to Brazil, to the University of São Paulo. It's still a plan because with COVID now we don't know really what can happen. But anyway, the idea is that the exhibition didn't die after it was showed here in Maputo. So now we'll start the slideshow. Let me just drink some water. So here. So here, okay. Now, so in this presentation, there are, I would say, three parts. First of all, I will present the objectives of the exhibition, the production of the exhibition, the team that worked in this exhibition. So, and then, I don't know if you have already visited, watched the video about where we show, we visit the museum, but I believe that not everybody have done this. So after this general introduction, you will visit the museum. It's a short 5-minute video, but to give you an idea of the general ambience, I don't know how to say. And then we will start looking at the pieces, the fragments of the kaleidoscope. So, okay, so this is so first of all, before the 5-minute visit to the exhibition, we'll see the socio-historical background, basic concepts, objectives, etc. So let's start. I thought that as I believe that not everybody is familiar with the Mozambique situation, I prepared just few and short informations about our country. So we had the independence in 1975, so less than half a century. We are a very young country. And the linguistic situation, this is a multilingual country. So the linguistic situation is that we have around 20 Bantu languages. There are some languages that Bantuis still don't know if they are dialects or really languages, but so we used to say about 20 Bantu languages. That now, according to the census of 2017, was spoken by around 85% of the population. In the census of 1980, nearly everybody had Bantu language as a first language. There is a decrease of the number of Bantu language speakers. And Portuguese is spoken by now at 27 and 2017 by around 60% of the population. L1 15%, so a great increase of the number of the percentage here of speakers of Portuguese as an L1 and also as an L2. It's interesting because to know a little bit about the language policy after independence, because at a certain point, as you will see, our conception of the exhibition had this background, this language policy as a background. So until after independence, until 1990, Portuguese was the only official language, and more importantly, maybe, Bantu language had no official status. And from 1990 onwards, Portuguese is still the only official language, but the constitution, the new constitution, this is the date where there was a new constitution, the state explicitly promotes the development and use of Bantu language in daily life. I cannot see all my text because of the photos, but okay. I have the photos, your image here on the right of the monitor.
Mas pode arrastar, professora Perpétua, pode arrastar assim para a direita as fotos, as imagens, ou para baixo, ou minimizar.
Or minimizar. Don't, please, I'm very glad that this is okay. I don't want to get, okay, so now it's okay. So after the independence, we had the same policy as during the colonial times was followed by the new government for many reasons, political reasons, ethnical, tribalistic fears, and so, but this is one situation. And at the independence, we had nearly no research on Mozambican Portuguese. Maybe there was not really a Mozambican variety. So until 90, we had only 1990, only 50 titles. And after 2020, we had already more than 500 titles. So there is lots of studies relatively, because we are a very small country with a few, not many academics and scholars and so on. And this is, maybe it is important to say to you that if you are interested in what has been done, which bibliographies on different African varieties of Portuguese, we in the Cátedra, we provide this kind of information. So, as I told you, the background of this exhibition was the exhibition was strongly inspired by the objectives of the Museum of the Portuguese Language. I transcribed here some of them, the ones that were most inspiring for us. So they say in the different documents they have published, the objective of the museum is to create a living representation of the Portuguese language, and something very interesting, to create a democratic space that would not be concerned, where people would not be concerned with cultivated language or right and wrong ways of speaking. For us, this is really the one backbone of our exhibition. And the other, on the other side, the Museum of São Paulo, targets the Portuguese-speaking population made of people from many regions and social backgrounds. This, so for us, when we thought of different social backgrounds, for us this means that we don't want to speak for academics. We want to speak to people to be understood, to be enjoyed in this exhibition by people that didn't that are not academic, didn't study linguistics, can be engineers, but can be also the worker of bankers and so on. So really, I would like to. Let me see. Oh, finally. Okay. So now I will present some of the objectives of the exhibitions. So the first one would be to highlight the linguistic creativity of Mozambican community, which emerged spontaneously in the daily communication of its citizens. Of course, this is just an example. We had different cartoons in the throughout the exhibition, and reproduced in the quite big size, 1 meter at least, and where the people use the personages use Mozambican Portuguese slang. So this was funny, but at the same time we were reproducing the linguistic creativity of Mozambican. Another objective, another very important objective, was to highlight in different ways, as you will see, the role of local Bantu languages in the genesis of Mozambican Portuguese. Here, I just give an example. For instance, normally we know about Bantu languages. We just know how many, which are the most spoken, the percentage of speakers, but normally we don't have a whole vision of our country, in which we see where these languages are spoken, most spoken, because in each province there are other languages, but at the most one, and where Portuguese is at the same level of the other languages. So for us, this was quite important politically and as linguists. No? Another objective was to create conditions for an interactive relationship with visitors that in a pleasant and fun way captivate them and raise their awareness of the richness and linguistic diversity of Mozambique. Well, of course, we had not many resources, so we could not follow the model of the museum. But at our level, we tried to create different conditions, different situations, as you will see, where the visitors could be active. And one of them was this blackboard, really the traditional, the classic blackboard, and where we wrote, "Dear visitor, this space is for you." And the idea was that people wrote here whatever they want. Of course, we gave a little, to inspire them, we put a word, neologism of Mozambican Portuguese with the equivalent, but people were free. And we were very surprised, agradavelmente surprised, that people really wanted to participate here. This is a group of students of secondary school, but there were other types, and we had to erase. So each time the blackboard was full, we took a photograph and erased it. Start again, and we had to do during 2 months. We had to do this 7 times. So it was interesting, and it is also interesting the contributions of the people of different social classes, the different academic formations. So another argument. Another objective, and I would say a kind of hidden objective, was to provide arguments against neutralizing analysis of the 5 varieties of Portuguese-speaking African countries as a single variety, African Portuguese. I don't know, maybe for those who are familiar with the research on Portuguese, on the variation and change of Portuguese, there is a tendency to see Africa as a country, so just one country, and where people would speak just one Portuguese. So our idea was to show that we have different countries, and these countries are quite far uns dos outros, each other, no? And the most important, maybe, in these countries we have very different local languages. So this map was not showed in the exhibition, but later on we realized that when we prepared the catalog, we thought that it was important to in a written form to present this information. So, but you will see we have other strategies to attain this, to meet this objective. So now the last objectives were to give to the people a broader understanding of Mozambican Portuguese in a diachronic and spatial perspective. So we organized a set of panels where we presented data on Mozambican Portuguese, not only, as you will see, but also from the colonial times until the present time, until now. And we also, this is for the diachronic perspective, and for the spatial perspective, we organized a set of mobiles where we put some words of Angola, different words that represent the same object or the same concept in Angola, Mozambique, Portugal, and Brazil. We will see this in more detail later on. So about the production, of course, this was normally we are used to organize conferences now, but of course, as you can imagine, the production of this exhibition required a multidisciplinary team. Professor Inês Machunga and myself were the coordinators, and there were about 30 persons enrolled in this in the production. Content developers, mostly linguists of different areas, lexicology, lexicography, social linguistics, Bantu linguistics, historical linguistics. We had to work, and it was a very, very important person, a graphic designer, because we prepared the contents, and sometimes also with some suggestions of photos or images that could support the contents, but the graphic designer was very, very important. This is, for instance, this kaleidoscope is his own creation. It wasn't. All the exhibition really has his hands. We also needed software developers for a program, as you will see later on, a cartoonist. You have already seen a cartoon of this artist, and an artist curator, because we wanted that, I saw this also in the Museum of Portuguese Language, we wanted really that the whole exhibition be aesthetically attractive and a very aesthetic experience and a pleasant experience. So before we go to the contents, I would present the contents in a more detailed way. Some preliminary remarks is that the selection of the different topics and the level of approach of these topics were strongly determined by the target audience, of course. In order to create a democratic space, so-called democratic space, we realized that it was necessary to work out contents that did not require a very technical and academic language. And as you'll see, the lexicon turned out to be kind of backbone of the exhibition. There are lots of information supported by lexical information, different types, but like socially, very different. We will see. And another important, which I speak of this at the end of this presentation, is there was really a quite dramatic lack of ready-made information for most panels. For examples, we wanted to present words of Mozambican Portuguese borrowed from specific Mozambican Bantu language and vice versa. But we had not this information already organized in this perspective. Or for instance, for the history of Mozambican Portuguese lexicon, we thought that it would be interesting to present a survey, to provide a survey of words used in colonial times, fallen into disuse, or words used immediately after the independence that also fell in disuse, and we had no ready-made information. So we worked for about 9 months now. So we start working in March 2019, and 8 months to get all this information, to organize that, and so. So now I invite you to visit the exhibition. Let me see if I can do it very well. So I hope I will be ser bem sucedida. Let's go. So wait a minute. Okay. And
esta exposição recebeu o título de Português de Moçambique no Caleidoscópio, porque queríamos mostrar, dar informações sobre várias dimensões do português neste país. Então, a ideia do caleidoscópio é exatamente mostrar que a informação foi distribuída por diferentes fragmentos, por diferentes componentes e de uma forma tanto quanto possível agradável, atraente, com vários recursos, e este é o espírito, o conceito que preside a esta organização desta exposição. Organizamos um mural com anúncios, com dados da escrita que aparecem na cidade de Maputo. Nomes de ruas, nomes de lojas, em que também procuramos captar erros ortográficos, mistura de línguas, português, língua banto, xangane, etc. Então, esta é a ideia, mostrar o tipo de escrita urbana a que estão expostos os cidadãos. Fizemos uma montagem de uma gravação a partir de vídeos da televisão moçambicana para captar as várias pronúncias dos falantes que têm diferentes línguas banto e dar uma ideia dos dialetos, dos vários dialetos do português, pelo menos a nível da pronúncia. Temos um computador que os visitantes podem usar, em que está instalado um programa com neologismos do português de Moçambique, com apoio de imagem, fotografias ou vídeos. Então, o visitante carrega na palavra e aparece a imagem correspondente. Um dos objetivos desta exposição é também não só mostrar que o português de Moçambique tem as suas especificidades, mas mostrar que cada uma das variedades do português tem também as suas especificidades. Então, usamos este termo, português é uma língua pluricêntrica, tem vários centros. Para documentar isto, para ilustrar esta visão, montamos um conjunto de palavras que correspondem a diferentes conceitos ou objetos e são designados de maneiras diferentes em Moçambique, Angola, Portugal e Brasil. E assim dá uma noção mais concreta de como o português é diferente nos diferentes países onde é falado. Para introduzir algum humor e tornar a visita à exposição uma experiência divertida e agradável, toda a exposição é atravessada por um conjunto de cartoons em que são usados, nos diálogos das personagens, são usados termos da gíria moçambicana, frequentemente usada pelos jovens, mas não só. E, portanto, isso permite uma certa alegria, dá uma certa alegria à visita. A história da língua portuguesa em Moçambique é, obviamente, a história também da educação, portanto, é a história do ensino, uma vez que o português não é a língua materna e que a quase totalidade da população fala línguas banto. Então, nestes painéis da história da língua portuguesa, nós introduzimos diferentes informações relacionadas com o período colonial e depois no pós-independência, que mostram as diferentes medidas e políticas linguísticas que o português foi sofrendo ao longo da sua história, incluindo dados estatísticos sobre o número de falantes, sobre alfabetização e também dados lexicais, palavras que foram usadas no tempo colonial, que já não se usam, palavras usadas no pós-independência que também caíram em desuso, e assim dar uma visão geral da história da língua portuguesa em Moçambique. Um dos objetivos da exposição é realmente assinalar, marcar claramente que o português falado em Moçambique tem de obrigatoriamente ser diferente do português falado noutros países em que é também língua oficial, porque ele recebe contribuições de várias línguas, das várias línguas banto que são faladas neste país. Nesta imagem nós procuramos representar, por um lado, as várias palavras que foram introduzidas, os empréstimos que foram introduzidos no português a partir das várias línguas com as quais o português está em contacto, e aproveitamos também para mostrar de que maneira o próprio português também fertiliza as línguas banto moçambicanas com as quais está em contacto, portanto, palavras que foram introduzidas nas línguas banto a partir do português.
Agora espera lá um bocadinho. Agora, o que é que eu faço? Ok. Bom, parece que está a correr tudo bem. Então, pronto, isto realmente é uma introdução muito geral e eu agora não sei muito bem o tempo que vou ter, mas acho que vai estar muito bem. Então, eu agora vou decompor, não é, este caleidoscópio em várias partes e vamos começar pela história do português de Moçambique. Sorry, I'm speaking in Portuguese. I'm sorry. You should say me, tell me. Well, so now we are going to see the kaleidoscope, to break the kaleidoscope in different parts. Let's start by the history of Mozambican Portuguese. The general idea, as you saw, there was all these panels, no? And the general idea the objective was to provide a broader understanding of Mozambican Portuguese in a diachronic perspective. So we organized the information in periods from the colonial period, and inside the colonial period we established different phases, because of course concerning Portuguese there were different phases, and also after independence also the different phases until 1990 and then before. And in this, when collecting the information for these panels, we gave particular attention to language and education policies, of course, in a very short way, but people could learn something. And we prepared different quantitative data on different themes. So on the evolution of education, on literacy, language situation of Mozambique, and also evolution of the lexicon since colonial times. For instance, concerning the evolution of the percentage of Portuguese, as a matter of fact, this photo came from our catalog for technical reasons. I had not exactly the image of the panels, but the information is the same. normally, when so all this information came from the census, different census of the population, which in Mozambique we organize them each 10 years. And normally, when the results of a census appear, newspapers publish information, say, "Oh, now in 1997 we have percentage of speakers of Portuguese or Bantu language," but generally, I think that only academics have information, a vision, a whole vision of the evolution of the percentage of Portuguese speakers. And it is interesting now to see that in 1980 there was only 1.2% of the population spoke Portuguese as a mother tongue, and that maybe in 2020 we will have to 18%, and etc. And concerning our presentation of terms used during the colonial times and after the independence, we also had to look for terms. There was not this, we know very much about lexicon, Mozambican lexicon, but the information is not organized in this direction. So we had to look for, and it was interesting because maybe people, I know that there is among you, there is someone that lived in Mozambique, and some words we had completely forgotten. For instance, beef. It was the South African people that go to the beach and got very much sun, and then their color was really red, and so we call them like beefsteak. And it was interesting that people from this generation that were adults at this time, the colonial time, and or people that were already not adults, but anyway, that were already born after the independence, they were having fun, looking at these words. Oh yeah, oh no, it was really very interesting. And at the same time, the general idea was that people see how language is dynamic, that is a dynamic entity, you know. Each time we have new words and other words fall in disuse and so on. So now one of the most important issues, I don't know how to say, on the backbone of our exhibition was to give different informations about contact language in Mozambique, Portuguese, Bantu languages. And this dimension was intended to achieve two objectives. So to highlight, as I told you before, and we are just repeating the objective we have seen, the role of Bantu languages in the genesis of Mozambican Portuguese, and to provide arguments against the so-called African Portuguese, African Portuguese, a single variety. So concerning which material, these are the types of information we prepared to account for this contact language in Mozambique. One of them you have already seen, so linguistic map of Mozambique, where I spoke already about it. So where people got information about the most spoken languages in each province, Portuguese and Bantu languages. And as you saw in the video, we organized a kind of mini studio for listening to audio recordings of the accent of Mozambican Portuguese by speakers of different regions, different specific L1 Bantu. When this was, this is a photo where people we put a map here, two maps, because the audio recording, in the audio recording, we had, so we work with the television, interviews made by Mozambican television, and from different provinces, from different regions. And then we say, for instance, Manica, and then we had very, very funny dialogues. My colleague Inês Machung did this work of choosing and selecting, and it was really dialogues very interesting. That's why people are laughing. But at the same time, they could, in the same experience, de uma só vez, just once, to have all several accents of Mozambican Portuguese. And this is interesting. I heard some people told me, oh, I never realized that there are so many accents in Mozambique. So it was funny, useful. And it is from a linguistic point of view, it's interesting because because Mozambican Portuguese, we cannot yet speak about dialects of Mozambique Portuguese. Hello? At the syntactic level, for instance, which my area of research, but we could already have established different dialects at the phonetic phonological level. So it is interesting that to share this kind of information with people. And another very important point in our about this contact language in Mozambique is the geometrical figure we prepared to account for lexical borrowing Mozambican Portuguese Bantu language. You saw already, but now I would like to give some more information. So here in this, in this figure, as you see, there are different Bantu languages, not all, of course, and each one has a different color. So the idea was to give a visual information of how Portuguese receives so many words and of different words. So the word, if Sena, for instance, is green, the words imported the loans from Sena are in green, and then blue because it's wrong, and so on. So this was a way, and on the other side, vice versa, we, as Portuguese is the shade of Portuguese is in black, so we have different words of Portuguese that have been imported to the different languages, Bantu language, and of course we gave here a glossary of with people to see this. And it was funny because people were enjoyed really to see how the phonetic adaptations of Portuguese words, not only what is happening in Portuguese, but always the phonetic adaptations that because Bantu language are CV have the structure of the syllable of Bantu language is consonant vowel, CV. And so when Portuguese now, so words of Portuguese where we have two consonants follow one each other, or that are in the final position of a syllable. In Bantu language, there is people insert a vowel. So, for instance, pedreiro, in Portuguese, we have three consonants follow, and it will be pedreiro. Right? So it's interesting. And other hospital, chipitali. And so it was really very, very funny. Of course, we only had 10 of the 20 Bantu languages, and not only because it would be difficult to put in the same image the 20 languages, but also because there is a most important reason, because of course the Portuguese, the Bantu language borrowed from Bantu, the loans borrowed from Bantu languages to Portuguese. This happens when there is a contact language more intense, more deep, and in the zones that are not where this contact is not so deep, there is few loans. For instance, as you can see, Makonde Maconde is a language spoken in the so-called, sadly so-called Cabo Delgado. And it is a zone where urbanization is still very weak. And we only could find one word used in Portuguese. Maybe there are others, but for other languages, it was very easy to find loans from each Bantu language. And maybe this is one reason, is the fact that the contact language is not so deep. So there are now not so many, so much interaction. So just to close this orientation of this perspective of contact language in Mozambique, throughout the exhibition, we posted different sentences that accounted for the importance of Bantu languages, for the recognition of the importance of the Bantu language. So the source of these sentences were extracts from interviews that were conducted as part of our project, Mozambican Bilingual Community, L1 Bantu to Portuguese, an exploratory study. And just an example, after translating Portuguese and English, of course, children must be, this is someone working at the education, in the Ministry of Education. Children must be told that all languages have value. There is no language superior to another or with more value than the others. So we tried through these sentences, very simple, not academic sentences, you know, to share with our visitors kind of concepts, a kind of vision of the importance of the Bantu languages and the importance of their role in our country. So now the cartoons. Of course, I think it is obvious that the cartoons were intended to meet two objectives. One was to create conditions for an interactive relationship with visitors that in a pleasant and fun way captivate them and raise their awareness of the richness and linguistic diversity of Mozambique. So the idea is that as for the Museum of São Paulo, there is not a Portuguese that is bem falado or mal falado, right? That it's okay, it's right, the right Portuguese or the wrong Portuguese. Everything is okay as far as people say we use a certain word or use a certain structure. If it meets the standard norm or European Portuguese, which is the norm adopted, officially adopted, it's another thing. But in the exhibition, we wanted really to put people in contact with all these varieties, social varieties, diachronic varieties of Portuguese. And of course, the slang, the Mozambican Portuguese slang, also accounts for the linguistic creativity of Mozambican community, which emerges and manifests itself spontaneously in the daily communication of its citizens. So this is another case where we had no ready-made information, and Professor Inês Machung was very, very important in this collection. We had the support of young scholars and students of our faculty, because generally it's Portuguese Mozambican slang, as I think everywhere, is spoken by young people. So we invited a very famous cartoonist here, Mr. Sergio Tic, and we gave him the words and their meaning, of course, and he created these cartoons. Normally, we use the bold to show where is the slang, because maybe for some people this is not slang, this is just normal Portuguese they speak. So not now. So for those who don't speak English, Portuguese, not now. Now I'm very busy. Busy is an English word, of course. Oh, that one is very show-offista. So show off, and then the derived word show-offista. So he has a computer, a laptop here now, a kind of laptop. And here also, oh, Marta is not ashamed. Jetar is to enter a party without being invited. So she entered the party without being invited, and now she's having great fun, more than everybody. So it's so in general, these cartoons were reproduced in quite large dimensions. This was interesting because normally about 1 meter, as I told you before, and they were distributed throughout the exhibition space. So as far as when people were visiting the exhibition, each time they had an opportunity to laugh and to be glad. One of the most important lines of research of the cátedra was the creation of a lexical database, Observatory of Neologisms of Mozambican Portuguese, coordinated by Professor Inês Machungo. And it's a database which is regularly updated and hosted at the website of our cátedra. And at a certain point, we decided to, whenever possible, to illustrate the neologisms with photos or videos. And of course, for the exhibition, in order to have this pleasant ambient, pleasant, and so the software developers, of course, we asked them to create a software program that only includes those neologisms that have visual support. So there was, we had a quite primitive computer, but it was the only one we got, and people could click on the word, and the photo or video appeared, as you saw in the video we projected. And also, for instance, you press in Budgie Burger, and you have this image. So Budgie Burger, for instance, it's a bhajia burger, and bhajia is a fried pastel made with beans. So people created this neologism, Budgie Burger. And another example, if you click on calamidad, literally calamity, so calamity, natural calamity, you find clothes. So why? Because at a certain point in the, I don't know anymore, but maybe by the 80s, there foreign organizations and governments offered clothing, and these clothes were supposed to be offered to people, but then they start being sold at very low prices. So now when we spoke about calamidad, we think in a certain context, of course, of clothes. Another, just one more example, which I think is dramatic, but at the same time interesting. You can imagine that we have many difficulties with collective transport for people in Maputo and other cities. And so some people use a pickup truck where passengers cannot sit and must stand up. And of course, you can imagine the pickup is running, and very often people have to embrace each other in order to ensure their stability. So people here with their humor, so the situation may be dramatic, but people here also always have some humor to account for their situation. They call these pickup trucks my love, because people must embrace themselves. So just one more information. So sharing this observatory database with the public was aimed at creating an interactive and pleasant relationship with visitors of the exhibition and raising their awareness of the richness of Mozambican Portuguese. We have not many resources, technical resources for this objective of interaction. And so this was one solution, quite modest, but it was one solution. So now about Portuguese as a pluricentric language, is you saw already that we provided these mobile structures where we have words from Portugal, Mozambique, Angola, and Brazil, 4 countries only, and where for the same object or concept, different words are used. European, Brazilian one. This spatial perspective was intended to put Mozambican Portuguese on the same level as the other varieties, namely European and Brazilian Portuguese. Why? We expected that this approach could help people to break the prejudice that these are varieties of Portuguese. There are varieties of Portuguese more prestigious than others. Here, very often in medium class, maybe more in medium class, there is the idea that you don't speak well Portuguese, você fala mal português, when you don't you don't speak according to the standard European norm. So we wanted to show that, oh no, there are many different ways of saying the same thing, and there is nothing wrong of having a different word or structure, but in this case, word for the same concept or object, and so. And so, I think it's final, yeah. Finally, we also provided a linguistic landscape of a mural of linguistic landscape of Maputo City. And the idea, the objective was to raise the awareness of this richness and diversity of language situation in Mozambique, and also the linguistic creativity of the Mozambican community. And in this mural, we tried to get spelling mistakes, use of different languages, and also the different materials used to post commercial advertising, cars, trees, zinc sheets, and not only walls or the standard advertising boards. So we have this a cartopela, we call it. I think in Portugal is tuk-tuk, no? And so words written in Xangana, slang, the use of slang, the use of English. This is a shop that sells materials for cars. The auto got first. Here we don't see very well, but yeah, there is some bad shop. I don't know if you can see some spelling mistakes and so. And it was a kind of room inside the exhibition, and the idea is that people were to give the illusion that people are walking in the city and are exposed to all this urban writing. Yeah. So now, as I'm not. I don't speak English so well. I prepared a small text, I'm sorry, to have written. Maybe it would be nice that I improvise, but some final remarks. And then you are welcome to make questions, whatever you want. I don't know, yeah, we still have some time. So before I finish my presentation, I would like to stress how inspiring can be for us as linguists to target a non-academic audience, either for the choice of research topics or in what concerns the dissemination of our research. So as we saw for some topics of the exhibition, there was no ready-made information. We saw already, we had no lexical research on Mozambican Portuguese in a diachronic perspective or on loans of specific Mozambican Bantu language in Mozambican Portuguese. And no research on the dialectation process of Mozambican Portuguese at the phonetic or phonological level or other. These are undoubtedly relevant research topics, but they have not been yet systematically studied. Why? We can think of several reasons to explain these research gaps. I think that among them is the fact that we often do, we academics, do our research in the closed circuit of the academy, where scientific sessions end up pushing us into certain areas. So in what concerns the dissemination of the results of our research, I would dare to say that we work too much in a closed academic circuit, and that we should, or we could, and maybe we should think of alternatives that might involve the non-academic community. Language issues interest everyone, as you know, as we all know, not just linguists or language teachers. It's just about finding suitable formats for disseminating the information. So I share with you this photo because, you know, young people, most of the young people who came to the exhibition had never seen a kaleidoscope. So the title itself it was a kind of empty title for those who don't know Portuguese, Mozambique and Portugal. Okay, but in a kaleidoscope, what does it mean? So in Mozambique, it is not easy to find a kaleidoscope, even in Portugal, because I asked someone to buy for me and they couldn't find. And finally, I found in a Chinese shop two very primitive kaleidoscopes where the pieces were in plastic, as maybe you can see. But anyway, so at the end of the visit, when people came, when there were these groups, I asked if they want to see what is a kaleidoscope, how it works, and so they enjoyed very much. I think it was really a good idea where they showed them what is really a kaleidoscope. So, okay, so I think I've finished, and